back to the Flying Lion podcast, everyone. I'm here tonight again with Sam. He's rocking our Flying Lion pod shirts. Love those navies. We have orange available as well. Not just promoting our shirts tonight. We actually have an episode talk about some international duties. Sam, how we doing tonight?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Like you said, repping the merch. So if you want to go, check out the merch, DM us, or you can just look at me wear the merch on YouTube for this episode, whichever, tickles your fancy there. But yeah, international duty. This past week, we had three guys that got called up. Two of them were kind of at the same time. And then, a little bit later, we had Bupenza get called up as well. So had Moreno and Arias, and we also had Mascaro. So four guys actually, sorry, get called up. But yeah, I mean, once again, kind of a dull week for everything, right? International duty isn't, the most hype time, but we had a U.S. men's national team game as well against Germany. So touch on that a little bit as well.
Yeah, it was again kind of interesting. Like you get so hyped up, you win a shield, you have this trophy now, and it's like, and we'll cut to a break. So it
Yeah,
just, you're right. It
beautiful
kind of
kind of
like
transition.
it's such a long MLS season now. Like I don't know if it's ever been this long, but total amount of games, different competitions, players playing for their national team. I mean, of course, like 3 out of the 4 guys now are playing in like World Cup qualifiers, but I mean, they're meaningful games, don't get me wrong, but it's just like this is so much volume. Like I had just looked in um kind of wanted to research a little bit on the MLS playoff structure and whatnot, which we'll kind of get into probably not this episode, but the next one as we go into the, MLS playoffs. But I mean, we could potentially be playing in the MLS Cup Championship in December. And the season started like very first day of March. Like what a long season, Sam. It's insane.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with soccer, but I don't know. I feel like how many months would that be? January, February. So it would be 2 months, right? So I mean, Premier League has 2 months really as well, June
Yeah.
and July. So I mean, if you're going to be full time, this is full time football. So I mean, a lot of people could see it as that to where it's, hey, we're trying to be like the other leagues, like let's scale up like they do.
Right.
However, you have the flip side where it's all about the money. The more games you play, the more times your team is on TV, the more money you make. Like that's just how it is. So
Yeah, that's a good point. Talk about like actually like seeing some of these games, like we're referencing the international break. So right now, at least in South America, a couple other places around the world, they're doing like World Cup qualifying for, I believe it's the 2026 World Cup, which is going to be hosted in the United States, combined with Canada and Mexico. So some really, really cool, live international soccer or football is going to be coming to you here in a few years. As we build up to that, Sam, it's cool to see some of our guys play in those games and hopefully to, if they're playing now, make the roster for 2026. At least the guys that we're kind of seeing right now, I would say, are not necessarily locks, but are on kind of good footing, I would say, with at least 3 of them. So we can kind of get into things in the games that we had seen. I think the big one of all of them that I saw was Colombia versus Uruguay. In South America, going into this game, I think there's a total of 9 teams. They play each other twice. And basically what happens is the top 16 teams advance from this style, with the 7th team doing a FIFA like playoff tournament. So big game for Colombia versus Uruguay. I think it was in Colombia too. So the atmosphere was just rocking. We had Yerson Mosquera and Santiago Arias, both from FC Cincinnati, that were involved in this game. Sam, kind of give me a little bit of a rundown on what you saw.
yeah, so obviously Arias gets the start. Great to see on the right hand side. Kind of back into that starting 9 that he was, a couple years back. Glad to see him back in there. And he assists in the first goal of the game to Rodriguez,
James Rodriguez.
who honestly, yeah, James Rodriguez, honestly, phenomenal volley, like to put Colombia up 1-0 was really that was really good goal. Unfortunately, it was a back and forth game after that, and you have the two sides going back and forth, and then you have a red card in the 87th minute or something like that.
Yep.
They got to take a player off, bring another goalkeeper on, and then you have Darwin Nunez, who plays for Liverpool right now, puts it away and makes it 2-2 in the 90th minute for the penalty. So pretty crazy. But in that kind of red card mix, you had a sub in Mosquera who came on for Arias. So that was pretty interesting to see.
A full FC Cincinnati sub for international like team is just so crazy. I want to go back to Colombia's first goal that Arias assists on. Number one, this is Arias's 55th cap or appearance for the Colombian national team. His last being in October of 2020 versus Venezuela, actually, which is a team we're going to be touching on here in a little bit. But pretty interesting with this, Sam. It was the typical FC Cincinnati goal. Like, I don't know if you obviously you saw the replay, but for those who, didn't get to see this, the build-up, they play it out wide. Arias, as we've seen all year long for FC Cincinnati, is taking the ball down the line, puts in a ball that's kind of behind the defense. All the defense had rushed into the box. Rodriguez does a good job to get open. Arias finds him, one touch, beautiful volley, like Sam had mentioned. So I was like, man, we've seen this year from Barrial on the left side. We've now seen Arias on the right side. I think he got some good experience playing with FC and kind of carry that over, to the Colombian national team, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was set up perfectly. Like you had said, Rodriguez brings it down. Beautiful touch, but yeah, it was a crazy game from that perspective. To move on to the next one, you have, like you had talked about, Moreno. He plays Brazil in this matchup last week, and they were kind of Venezuela versus Brazil. Like, you're not going to expect Venezuela to go up against the powerhouse and give it to them. Early on in the game, Brazil scores, and it's kind of like, oh, here we go. Like, how many are they going to score? This game, Venezuela kind of brings it back, and they end up shocking Brazil in the 80th minute to tie the game 1-1 with a freaking bicycle kick.
Insane.
Did you see that?
Insane, absolutely insane goal.
Insane goal.
Yeah, everyone was tweeting possibly goal of the year, absolutely insane. And against Brazil, of all people, to do that goal against, So very interesting.
You could see how shocked the Brazil defenders were when he hit that. They were just like,
yeah,
what?
Sam, I think you touched on it, but Moreno comes in as a sub in the 67th minute. Then Venezuela scores in the 85th, I believe it was. Any correlation there on that?
Maybe, yeah.
We might be stretching a little bit, but for him to play world-class talent, both, we're talking Arias, Mosquera, Moreno, playing unbelievable players. It only builds their confidence coming back for a playoff, push. I wanted to kind of mention a quick kind of side note. Number one, Arias, going back to Colombia, gets his 7th total assists for the Colombian national team. He's never scored, but he's had 7 assists now. So kind of a cool stat to see for a right back. He's at least showing that he's got good service and creating opportunities, even for his national team. The second part to this was that he actually gets injured in this game. And that's actually the reason he gets taken out. There's a report that came in, last night that he's actually leaving the Colombian national team camp to come back to FC Cincinnati. It sounds like it's more precautionary than anything. They're obviously in
that, by the way.
Yeah, they're in a just huge, time for their team. And he just started as the right back for World Cup qualifying. But I mean, he does an interview after the game saying he's not really worried about this. He was even shown kind of in an Instagram post, from the team hours before they announced that he was leaving. So I wonder if it was more our club was pushing for him to come back, to, possibly not make this worse. I know the player would love to play for his country no matter what. And you always got to be pushing for that. But I think from our standpoint, we're going into playoffs. He's such a vital player to our defense now. Do you think that had anything to do with him being called back?
I mean, probably. I would say, I don't know how much say. I would assume that he has a lot of say, especially with his veteran leadership, probably in that Colombian national team, to say,
Sure.
hey, like, I've been around for a while. You guys, like, I can sit out. Like, I need to go back. I've got playoffs with FC
Right.
Cincinnati. Like, I appreciate you calling me up and everything like that, but I don't think that I can give my 100% for my country. So I'd rather, get healthy and help you guys when it really, really counts.
That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, and selfless from him, or even just thinking like big picture on what is to come. How many, games are left in the World Cup qualifying process? Like one game isn't going to swing things necessarily. It's kind of interesting though, where things stand after this match day for their at least South American bracket for the World Cup qualifying. Colombia sits in third, actually. Venezuela is in sixth. Like I mentioned, the top 6 teams advance. So right now, it looks like we might have possibly 3 guys, at some point that were FC Cincinnati players. Who knows what happens in the next couple of years, but possibly playing in the World Cup, which would just be super cool. So kind of interesting to see. I have to look back and see who Colombia actually plays next. I don't know, Sam, if you know off the top of your head. But I know that Venezuela plays Chile on Tuesday of this week. So there will be one more game at least for a few of these guys. Mascara, it sounds like, might be staying. Maybe he gets a little bit more of a role in this next game. It'd be kind of cool. So anything else, I guess, did you see from any of these games? Or I guess we can even move on to Bupenza now too.
Yeah, I was about to say Bupenza. He was announced that he got called up. They actually play as well an international friendly, so not World Cup qualifying, but an international friendly against Guinea on Tuesday as well. So I think why he wasn't formally announced right away is because he has later games, right? So
Sure.
I think Moreno and Mascara and Arias, they were all named because they had games earlier. So he might have been named later because his games were later. That's just what I was thinking. I didn't know if you had any other thoughts on
It was
that.
kind of interesting on, like, I think
That's happened twice though.
yeah, one of the postcasts guys actually had I think it was, I forget exactly who it was, but there was a Instagram post that was out, and I was actually kind of perusing the Gabon like national team stuff too. And you see kind of photos of him training. And I don't know if word gets back to the club that, like, oh, they're posting about him there. But it sounds like this guy relishes playing for his country. Like, that is not an easy travel to get back, from Africa too, or even there. So for him to represent the country, even for a friendly game like this, he's wanting to play in games. It shows that he's wanting to stay active, to play in maybe competitive matches, even though it is a friendly. Or, looking on the flip side of being next to his countrymen and representing his country. I mean, if I got a call up for, the US, for sure I'm going to take it, no matter what level it is. So I got to respect that from him. Hopefully he just doesn't get stuck over there. Like, it sounds like sometimes the travel has been difficult. Who knows with them playing, against Guinea, as you mentioned, does he have enough time to get back for the game on Saturday or not? I don't know.
I would certainly hope so, but we shall see how either of them do on Tuesday. But yeah, that was kind of the international wrap up right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to like see again some of our players involved in this. I think even like I'm kind of perusing the MLS channels too, because I'm curious to see, is there any other guys, do we have the most amount of players that are representing their countries? And Inter Miami by far had like a lot of different variety, but I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, right?
Yeah, it means nothing.
But I saw like one of the Charlotte guys ends up scoring for Poland. I think Shaqiri for Chicago ends up scoring for Switzerland. So there's a lot of like active MLS guys, again, trying to balance, playing for their countries with playing with the MLS at the end of the season. And as we touched on with Arias, trying not to get injured, like especially the guys that are important for their teams and play meaningful minutes, are pushing for playoffs or, even to win the cup. It is very, very interesting to see how teams are able to kind of balance that. And maybe we intervene and we ask them, hey, can we at least evaluate our player or give us a better report on, what kind of injury he's got? He's had this history of a broken leg before. If there's any possibility of anything going on, do you just shut him down? I don't know. It's really interesting. But
Yeah,
I think,
I think yeah, go ahead.
no, you're good. Go ahead, Sam.
So what I was gonna say was the fact that I wonder in May, right, for the other big leagues in Europe, right, in May, there's not really any international play. And I find that very interesting. The fact that it kind of, I don't know if the MLS needs to get bigger for us to kind of be, worked into the schedule because I think
Right.
taking our players away at the end of the season, right before, if not during the playoffs, is a little kind of concerning. But once again, we're lower on the totem pole, so I don't think it really means much to them anyways.
That's
So
true. Yeah. Sam, on I guess a higher note, we're gonna kind of switch it up this week. Give me your jersey swap of the week, kind of on this international break. But we also had some other FC Cincinnati news. But what was your jersey swap of the week?
yeah, so jersey swap of the week, kind of like you said, I'm gonna go with Chris Albright. So it's kind of a suit swap, if you will.
Suit swap.
But yeah, FC Cincinnati and general manager Chris Albright agreed on a long-term extension earlier this week, which is phenomenal news. We're not really sure how long it is, but some speculate that it's a lifetime deal, and that's what we're hoping for. But he's done a phenomenal job since coming on October 2021, I believe, and
Mhm.
he's led to our first MLS playoff berth in 2022, and then now we won the 2023 Supporter Shield, and we did that in 31 matches. So what I'm looking to see is hopefully a Pat Noonan extension here coming soon.
Good shout. I honestly was just about to say, like, this has to be, big contract number 2, I guess, total after Lucho.
Oh yeah.
Awesome for like the general manager understands the importance of like, okay, the players on the field come first, make them happy. Lucho, you get your long-term extension. Then the club, after we won a trophy is like, all right, we're going to announce the general manager who kind of helped piece this together. And then I think, like you said, like Pat has got to be soon, I would imagine. Part of the key of keeping Pat was getting Albright to agree as well.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Wouldn't
Yeah,
you
they're
say?
almost a package deal. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, that's
for
kind of
sure.
what it seemed like out of Philly was, these guys are inseparable. They kind of share the same mindset. They want to play the same style of, play. So it's really important to me to kind of see that happen, to understand that, okay, if we have one, then he's going to want to have his guy. And there was openings around the league, it sounds like, at least LA Galaxy kind of had rumors for a while, even Chicago at some degree. But ultimately I think, Albright makes the right decision. I'm biased, but I'm very, very happy about, this. And, I think it's underrated how well he's done at kind of turning things around. If you want to say, he had inherited some of our current players, but look at all of the people that he's brought in, Sam. I mean, has maybe one player kind of questionably not hit, like Santos, if you want to say, like, is he the one that maybe didn't turn out, but maybe that was his all-time plan, was like, we're going to use him and fill in the gaps of these strikers. Can you think of anyone else that he's brought in that like really hasn't done much?
I mean, I don't think there's anyone that you can kind of point at and go, yeah, like that really hasn't worked out at all, because I think even a lot of the people that he's brought in are still working projects, because
Sure.
most of the players that he has really brought in, the ones that are veterans and the ones that have, kind of that playing experience have done really, really well, and they've
Right.
contributed, and that's why we were winning the Supporter Shield. The players that are projects are those guys that are, under 23, under 22 years old, and they're still learning, they're still gaining their, football experience, and this is their first big stage in their,
For sure.
professional playing career.
Yeah,
So
look at Isaiah Foster. I mean, that's a good point. And if you want to say like he's a failure, like he's got Alvaro Barrial in front of him as the MLS best left back. Like he's not going to win that spot, but he's learning under him. He gets loaned out, so he's still, getting some minutes. Now he's training back with the team. You can't call him a complete failure. That's not reasonable to say that. So I like that point. That's a good point about that.
yeah, but you love to see just Albright, the passion that him and Pat, like you had said, that they brought to Cincinnati. And it's always nice to see them reaping the rewards, right? Like you said, players first, and then let's get the guys in the front office their due as well. So yeah, hopefully we see Pat's here soon.
Suit swap. I love it.
Yeah. What was yours?
My jersey swap for this week is kind of a two-part series here. So we had mentioned Yerson Mosquera comes in, for the Colombian national team in the 90th minute. Sam, this is his first appearance for the senior national team for Colombia. Awesome for him to, be a part of this team. Again, he grew up playing in Colombia. He was in the youth ranks there. For him to kind of go through, I think, some of their youth U20 teams, U23 teams, and now to finally make his first appearance, albeit, a minute and some change in extra time, but in a meaningful game too. Really cool to see him come in. So that's my first part. The second part of this is that Lucho Acosta got an FC24 upgrade from 77 to an 84 overall in his rankings. Making him, I think, one of two MLS players to get upgrades, with Kai Wagner being the other one, who some people might, question of if he's going to join, the FC here in the next year. But awesome for Lucho to get kind of mentioned with the same breath of, some of these other incredible international players. And I think is up there for one of the higher, overall rated MLS players too in this video game. So pretty cool.
Yeah, I still have not, it's that point of the year where you're wondering, like, do I get EAFC? Do I not? Like, I feel like this is if you're gonna get it, like, you have to like get it this first year, because it's the changeover from FIFA to EAFC,
right?
And so like just having the ownership of it, like, yeah, I bought the first one, right? Because we had talked, however many times, about the lineage of FIFA. Like,
Sure.
Oh my gosh, I remember when I first got, my FIFA game, and it was great. And then now there's the turnover. So, Lucho getting that special card in EAFC, it's a testament to what he's been, kind of doing, not only this whole season, but, obviously his whole career at FC.
Do you think that, like, you started to go into the reason why you wanted to buy the game, and I thought you were even going to go down the route of like, FC Cincinnati is the best team in the MLS. I got to get this game because they're probably going to be ranked the highest, and I want to play, as this team and run the franchise my way. See, I almost would prefer like when they were bad, so that I could change everything. Because right now, with them being so good, like, who would
you don't want to
get
touch
rid
it?
of?
Yeah, you don't want to touch it.
They're like, so, you know what I mean? So it's kind of more fun when you can make your changes and make them good, when right now they're already probably one of the better MLS teams, at least by ratings, I would imagine. So that's kind of a funny kind of take on that. We had even made a comment when they won Supporter Shield. I have a video of me playing, showing them winning a trophy, first trophy, while playing as FC in, a video game, and then having the real life video of it. Just surreal to kind of see that actually come to life in some ways. If you guys who are listening or watching couldn't tell, Sam and I, used to play FIFA all the time with each other. Maybe we need to bring that back and do a live, podcast while playing, giving our, initial reactions. But just cool stuff, awesome to see at least him getting recognized, going back to Lucho with his upgrade.
Yeah, always cool to see your players, and in video games for sure.
Sam, did you have a trivia question for the week?
Yes, I did.
Let's hear it.
The trivia question of the week is kind of going off of the international history of FC Cincinnati. So since FC Cincinnati entered the MLS, there have been 24 players who have claimed the U.S. as their nationality. What country is second in representation for FC Cincinnati?
So it would be like, I guess, second in terms of like the amount of caps, correct?
Like the amount of players that are from that
The
country.
amount of players from that country who have played for their national team.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Costa Rica. I don't know.
Rica.
I
Okay.
feel like
Okay.
early on in our history, I mean, we had Matarrita, Alan Cruz, Kendall Waston. But I could also think of, like Jamaica, we've had, I think, a few now. And now Colombia, we've had a few. I'm gonna lock it in. I'm gonna just go with Costa Rica. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, so we'll see if it's Costa Rica in the second half of the pod, but right here we're going to take a break and we'll be right back with you guys.
So Agility is a technology-driven soccer training facility. So we offer 6 facets of training. That would be Tech Touch with ball launchers that work on your first touch, the TSZ, which is the ESA equipment and working on decision making. We also have a circuit. Circuit training would be taking the ESA equipment to the next level. It's kind of like a soccer obstacle course. Then we offer neuroscience training with our reflection tools, working on processing things a little bit faster, hand-eye coordination and such. We offer skills classes, which is your typical core skills training. Lots of people still enjoy that, so we work on a lot of attacking 1v1 skills. And then we also offer athlete development. So our athletes come here and they work on speed, agility, quickness, explosive movements, really just learning how to move and function a little bit better as an athlete.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here tonight talking a little bit about some international soccer, some FC Cincinnati players playing for their countries. Now we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit. We're going to do kind of our cards of the week, and then we'll get into our upcoming preview for FC Cincinnati's game against Atlanta. Sam, we finally have a game again. I'm pumped about it. It's our last home game of the year, so we'll kind of get into that and chatting about that here in a little bit. But first off, I want to hear your card of the week.
Yeah, so card of the week is going to be there's no respect for FC Cincinnati's under 22s. So the MLS came out with their under 22 top player, best 11, the snubs, and then an outlook on possibly next year's under 22 best 11. There was no mention in any of those articles about any FC Cincinnati players at all. So no Angulo, no Pinto. Both are 21 respectively, and they are going to be 22 next year. Angulo, 24 appearances, 9 starts, 1 assist, has been a crucial sub for FC Cincinnati in, this entire season. Pinto, kind of the same thing, 21 appearances, 2 starts. Earlier in the season, he was kind of a super sub. He would come on for Lucho every time FC was up by 1-2 goals. So I think both are extremely quality players and deserve a little bit more recognition, especially since they're on the Supporter Shield Champs team. That's kind of my 2 cents.
I don't believe that. Well, I was going to say something, but I'll change the way I'm going to say it. Pinto actually is third in like sub appearances. So, I mean, you're right. He's playing some good minutes when we need him. And actually looks very confident when he plays too. So, yeah, dude, I totally agree. It's like we have some great young players. Like we're not being recognized for it. I think our guys are kind of right at the cusp though. At least some of our big guys.
Well, so that's what I was going to say as well is, if they were going to be named, all the guys are 23. I literally looked up. We have like 4 or 5 guys that are either starters or like regular subs that are 23 years old.
why can't they just do like anywhere else in the world where it's the under 23 team and not the, 22 or 22 or whatever MLS ranking it was? But yeah, dude, I'm there with
Gotta
you.
leave us out.
We'll make our own, 23 one and kind of go from there because you know who tops that list.
Us. Yeah, without a doubt.
Well, I'm just saying a certain player too.
Are you going Barreal?
Oh yeah, Alvaro's for sure. I think he's going to be.
Celentano is also 23 and Murphy's 23.
True. Yeah, good point. I mean, we got a lot of youth, a lot of good years ahead of us if we can keep some of the guys. I know Celentano already signed his extension, so very happy about that. Pinto and Angulo will probably be around for a while too. So we're excited about some of the youngsters. Good shout though. Red or yellow?
I'm gonna go yellow. It's not entirely, terrible, but I would like a little bit more recognition.
Sam's yellow of the week, folks.
There it is. For all
Sam's
those folks watching on YouTube, we showed the yellow card. Ryan, what was your card of the week?
My card of the week, Sam, I was so pumped about U.S. soccer. Again, for those watching YouTube, I'm wearing, a U.S. jersey, or those listening on Spotify, wearing a U.S. jersey. We were playing Germany this week in New England. Not playing at actually the Patriots Stadium. We're playing at the Yukon football team's stadium, and it was a good game in the first half. Pulisic had a unbelievable goal, and then the wheels kind of fell off. We go 1-1 at half, and then Germany kind of outclasses us, which I mean I can't be like terribly mad about, but I feel like the U.S. has got to get used to playing in big games like this and like keeping leads if they want to do anything special for the World Cup. That was going to be my big takeaway from this is like you're playing with a like largely normal starting lineup, very similar to what you had in the World Cup. These guys are probably largely going to be the same, in the next few years as well. Germany might change a little bit in who they had, but I mean, they still rolled out a class lineup too. So it was a really good test. But I'm going to give my yellow card to the U.S. in the second half of that game because they just didn't show up. But hey, I mean, it is Germany, but still, I'd expect somewhat better after seeing how the first half went. They played phenomenal. I know me and you were texting about that Pulisic goal too.
Yeah, after that 1-0, like that feeling was like, oh my gosh, like did that just happen? Did he just take him from like almost midfield, takes it in, just whips it, top bins on the right side, like
top bins.
Phenomenal goal. Like seriously.
If we want to have like one international player shout out right now for like jersey swap, it's Pulisic because that dude is on fire.
Captain America.
He's had 4 goals in 11 appearances, I think it was, for AC Milan over in Italy. He's now had a goal against Germany, as the captain. So Pulisic can't be stopped right now. He's feeling himself just in terms of like playing more minutes, I think has really helped him.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
He was at Chelsea last year and he was in a bad situation. And now, he's got all the faith in the world from the manager. Obviously, you got a familiar US manager too. He's captain. Everyone looks to him. What is your up and down there?
The US manager.
Oh yeah. I feel that. That's a separate podcast discussion because that would take a few hours to describe that. But I think that kind of what's worked for him too is Sam. He's playing with Yunus Musa at AC Milan, and now for club and country they're playing together. There's rumors that I think another U.S. player might be going over to AC Milan as well in the near future too. I think it was wasn't it Joe Scally, I believe. They were looking at it right back, actually.
Right back,
and he actually started against Germany and played very well. So that would be cool to see a few guys play together. I just love when they have that like continuity. It just reminds me of like, you remember FIFA Ultimate Team, right? And the link ups, you'd create your club and you get the players from the correct countries together. You'd create the green lines between it.
At the beginning of the season, they were also looking at Balogun as well. to
true.
possibly put up top there as their number 9. So almost had Musa, Pulisic, and Balogun in their starting 11 there. But yeah, great to see kind of the Italians love him over there too. They absolutely love him. They're eating him up.
Yeah.
He's on the front of every newspaper. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think he's loving his soccer over there right now. Sam, kind of switching gears, let's talk back to FC Cincinnati. We got our final home game of the year, playing a Atlanta United squad, which we beat earlier in the year 2-1. As you kind of alluded to on the last podcast, I love this. I think it would be our 5th series sweep of the year. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah.
So meaning that, there's 4 other teams that we've beat twice or 3 times now without losing. Atlanta would make this the 5th team, which is pretty awesome in my opinion, that we've, had at least a few teams where we haven't lost. And I don't know if ties are included in that or not, but Atlanta will be a tough task. I think they sit kind of like right on the cusp, if not like right in.
They're 8th right now.
Yeah. So they're right on the border. They're probably going to be pushing a lot more. I think, Pat's going to roll out a solid lineup for this game to kind of get us prepped for the playoffs now. We're about a week or 2 away, from that beginning. And again, we'll kind of get into the setup of this, but at least in the first round, it's, 3-game series or whatever. So getting the guys built up and ready to go again in a meaningful game, where Atlanta is going to be kind of coming at you hard too, kind of simulates a playoff atmosphere, wouldn't you say, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. So I misspoke there. They're 6th in the East, 8th overall in the MLS.
Okay.
So, but yeah, the last time out at Atlanta, it was a second half resurgence from FC Cincinnati. Kind of the games that we've been seeing this second half of the season. Second half team. Hopefully that's not the way in the playoffs, like we've discussed the past couple episodes. But for me personally, I'd like to see what your take is on this, but I expect to see kind of a fullish lineup for the first 45 minutes and then probably use of all 5 subs there in the second half.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Arias probably is a sub, but doesn't start just to make sure that he's healthy for the playoffs. Mascara, depending on if he plays or not. Maybe Bupenza, but honestly, more likely to have probably Dom Baji up there, to be honest. But then everyone else is the same. I think you'll see a solid lineup from us and a good test, honestly, at home right before we do start the playoffs. Atlanta, at least in my opinion, they play their home games on turf. Going to play on grass, obviously is a little bit different. We seem to, obviously do better at home, clearly, but playing teams that have turf home fields, like Charlotte, every time they've come to TQL, we've beaten them, on grass. I think our record against Atlanta has been pretty good, if I remember correctly, over the past few years against Atlanta, although their teams haven't been as good, but still, playing them on grass versus turf again makes a difference. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. I think the MLS had an article that came out, said, if the playoffs were to start today, before these last games, Atlanta would play Philadelphia, 6-3 seed right there.
Okay.
So an intriguing matchup right there, for 2 kind of great playoff teams the last couple years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as it is right now, we would be playing the winner of, I think it was like a 4 and a 5, if I'm not mistaken, or
it's Montreal and Red Bulls. So
Montreal
it's
and Red
9.
Bulls. Okay. 8 and a 9. That's right. Cause there'd be a play-in game. Before, we would play. And then, again, we'll get more into this next episode, but, I'm looking forward to a last home regular season game. Interested to see what the club will roll out in terms of potential giveaways or something like that. I don't know what they have in store.
Empty the closets there.
Yeah, I don't know. They're going to probably roll a lot out for the home playoff game. Hopefully we obviously will have multiple of those. If we keep winning, we keep playing at home. There's already a tifo painting that's being done for a playoff game too, which will be really cool. But Yeah, I think this Atlanta game will be fun. It's a little bit earlier of a game. It's a 6 o'clock game, which kind of threw me for a loop. I thought it was a Sunday game at first, but it kind of makes sense for a decision day. So obviously, this is the last game of the year. It's technically what's called decision day in the MLS. So for teams that are on the cusp or vying for a playoff spot, this would decide if they make it or not. At least in the East, there's a lot of spots locked up. In the West is a little bit, up and down. So in years past, decision day has been on a Sunday, kind of conflicting with the NFL season because FC Cincinnati clinched playoffs the last day, and it was a Sunday. I remember it clearly. So it's interesting they flipped it now to a Saturday night. I think there's a little bit more buzz in the air about it. I would love to see, obviously, I'm very happy we're first, in the MLS, first in the Eastern Conference, but in future years, just how big these days can be, building up these big moments. The MLS has tried to make a bigger stand about rivalry, weeks and stuff like that. So decision day being a big day is kind of cool to see.
Yeah, of course, when we have the platform that we do now,
Right.
of course, it doesn't really mean much to us right now.
For
but,
sure.
like you're talking about future seasons, hopefully we're not in that position, but
Yeah.
obviously decision day, is going to be a crucial time in the MLS. And it's going to be really cool to see which teams, especially in the West, like you were talking about, rise and which ones fall to the occasion.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I've been watching a lot more of the MLS 360 this year than ever. Honestly, like following other teams. So you're right. Like, even though decision day isn't as big for us, watching some of these big West games or whatever, like who would I potentially want to play?
You get to see who we're possibly going to play,
In like
if we
MLS
meet
Cup,
them.
right? Or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be I guess the only reason why we'd play a West team, but
we're scouting.
We are, yeah, a little bit, but I totally lost my train of thought, Sam. I'm not gonna lie when you made that comment, but last game of the season of 34 games, I think, right? Is that right for regular season?
Yeah.
Looking for, I believe, the 15th sellout of the season total, which I think we'll probably end up doing. Hopefully it's a nice night for it. I still want to find, Sam, a record for sellouts in a season, to see, is there a team that's sold out every single home game throughout the year? We're, I think, only one game off of that total. But if we go into playoffs, total amount, do we have the most sellouts of any team?
I think you had said that we're gonna leave that up to our investigative reporters there with Laurel or Pat Brennan or somebody like that.
That's true.
Yeah,
good point.
Leave it up to the experts.
Sam, what's your prediction for this game, though?
Prediction for the game, man. I mean, once again, Atlanta is a tough team to go up against. However, we are at home, so I'm gonna go with a modest. Let's go just 1-0 victory.
Going back to our earlier on in the season results, it had been a big 1-0 first part of the year. And we talked about 1-goal games, how many 1-goal games we've won. I think it's like 14 or something crazy. I'm going to go a 2-1 win at home. We play like, a solid 30, 45 minutes, like you said, with our starters. Maybe we get up 2-0, then give one late away just because we have our backups in and they're going to be pushing more or something like that. Who's a kind of standout player that you would want to see improve or to get good minutes, possibly have a good performance before the MLS playoffs that might be crucial for our run?
I got two guys. So both of them are in the back line. And I know we're a big fan of his. And so first guy, I'm going to go with Halsey. I really think he needs to either start the game and play the entire game or come on in the 45th minute and kind of earn those minutes for the playoffs. Cause I personally think he's earned minutes to play in the playoffs as a sub or, whenever we need him. Second guy being Ian Murphy. I really want to see what we have for the depth in the playoffs, right? We've got Muscara, we've got Miazga, we've got Hagelin that are kind of been our back three, if you will, that have put together the whole back five. But what can Ian Murphy bring to the table, especially when it comes playoff time. I want to see some quality minutes out of him.
Good shouts. I think your first one I wanted to kind of touch on with Halsey in the Red Bulls game. We ended up losing this game. We had kind of really gone into detail on how much we would have loved to see Halsey start instead of Powell and Gaddis. So to your point, like in a seemingly like meaningless game, but also that has like some hidden meetings in it. Like why would, if Arias is potentially out at right back, why would you not put Halsey in? Again, you're going to get from Powell, what you're going to get from Gaddis. Give him some minutes to play right back there, or, play him a 45-minute slot. Maybe it's not a starting spot, but at least 45. So good shot with him. Murphy's been playing well. I think, like, does he solidify his spot in the back line? Do we put our normal, center backs in? Do we see Murphy play more? I think for me, a kind of an X factor player who had a little bit more impact earlier on in the season was Don Badji. And I would love to see him get confidence to score in meaningful sub situations potentially in the playoffs. I don't think that Santos is going to have as big of a role like he did last year when he scored against Red Bulls. But I think Badji brings good experience, good energy, strength, I think, too. When he comes in, he like holds people off. So I would love to see Badji have a good game right before the playoffs begin.
Yeah, I love a good Badji appearance, love a good Badji goal, especially earlier in the season when there were a couple of times where we were banking on him doing something and he showed up.
Yeah. Oh,
3-4
Columbus
games
game
in a row there.
Columbus game for sure. That stands out. Colorado Rapids game, he scores the game winner.
Yeah, I was about to say Colorado. Yeah.
Back in his former club's stadium. But yeah, he's just been a awesome dude for the community. I think I saw him recently. He was volunteering. He was asking some people about like, youth club coaches as well. So I don't know if he's trying to get involved in that community or not. Or if that was just in reference to like, kids or friends or something like that. But he's been an awesome guy and really like appreciates his role. And isn't like getting too upset that he's not maybe starting or whatever, but just enjoying where he's at and with a winning team.
Yeah, absolutely.
So any final thoughts, Sam, before we close out tonight?
No, I mean, once again, final game of the season. We'll have a lot more to talk about once playoff and kind of the whole seeding is solidified. Can't wait to talk about that because MLS playoffs is going to be insane.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to, you had mentioned, in future episodes talking about the format specifically because it's a new format this year. I feel like it's new format every year, but new format this year, and look forward to talking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. I think the U.S. plays again this week, which will be kind of fun to watch before we again get into the last game. Excited to go. Excited for hopefully a win. Thanks again for everyone for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you next week after Sam gives us one last thing.
Well, the trivia question of the week.
We should do that. We should definitely do that. That's a good catch. You all wanted.
We're not going to do this again where Ryan forgets the truth.
That's true. We've done that once. We've done that once before. But thank you for the reminder. Let's hear it.
So if you didn't listen to the first half of the pod, trivia question of the week this week was, since FC Cincinnati entered the MLS, there have been 24 players who have claimed the U.S. as their nationality, first in the club in representation. The second in representation, Ryan had said, is Costa Rica. He had locked it in. That was his guess. The answer is actually the Netherlands.
What?
With
really?
4. Yeah.
No way.
So Costa Rica has had 3,
wow.
But Netherlands is second in 4, and we haven't had a Netherlands player in almost 2 years. The last Netherlands player was Kenneth Vermeer, I think, was the last person on the roster. So it was Siem de Jong, Jurgen Locadia, Michael van der Werf, and Kenneth Vermeer.
Wow. So 4 and then 3 was Costa Rica?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's pretty insane, actually. Yeah. And it can, like, what, 2 years now, like you said, since the last time we had somebody that played for them too?
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. I know that kind of brings back like terrible memories of the first couple of years of the club when we were in a period of
we got rid of all the
Dutch,
Netherlands players.
yeah, the Dutch players, managers, coaches, GM, all of that.
Brought in the Latinas. Yeah.
We got Lucho, who potentially might be an American player here soon too. So
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that was a great question. Actually, I love that. That was really good. What was your reference?
My reference was, I think I just looked up on the FBEF website that we usually use, and
That's
it was
pretty
like, how many people? Just how many people? I'm interested.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everyone. Now I'm formally going to say goodbye. Thanks again for listening, tuning in. Again, we'll have an episode after, this Atlanta game, and we're really going to do a deep dive into the MLS playoffs. We're really excited for the end of this year, and hopefully another trophy coming up here soon. So, Sam, have a good night.